Hi there, my name is Belinda Dubston and welcome to the I Ching Cafe and our weekly overview for the week commencing the 13th of June 2022. In these episodes we take a look at what is the flow of change that is binding us all together, and if we pay attention to that change and we become the superior person or the master in the moment, what we can do is we can maximize the learning and the growth and the opportunity of every week. So by joining me in these weeklies and the monthly episode, our task is to lift our game and is to have a better life and to be happy and to serve well for others. Okay, so let's have a look at last week. What did we have to pay attention to? And we had Hexagram 34, great strength, and 51, shock. So last week was all about understanding the power we have, understanding and realizing what it is that we can tap into, that we have power in, using our strength, driving forward, but also realizing that our strength can hurt others, can hurt ourselves if we push when the time isn't right to push. So we also had 51 shock, something shaking up, unexpected surprises, things moving forward suddenly. And so for you in last week, where was your power? Did you use your power well in the middle, as I suggested we do? And did you keep open, stay open to the unexpected movements and developments and changes taking place around us? Last week was a very intense week. Oh my goodness. And within a few days of the week, my husband had hurt his arm through trying to do something with a screwdriver and underestimating his strength and hurt his arm with it. So I thought, oh, here we go. Hexagram 34, don't use excessive strength. Okay, so it was a great week. It was a power week. And I personally had a huge insight around where I have power that I didn't realize I had power. So for you, what was your big revelation or your little small tweak that you made last week? Right, let's get into this week. What is the I Ching asking us to pay attention to this week? You know, tying into our June overview of amassing, right? And the opportunity we have to build a battery and build enthusiasm and build motivation and build momentum. Let's have a look at this week, how it ties into that story. Okay, so this week is a little bit of a put the brakes on week. Okay, I would imagine that we're going to experience the week very differently. The pace is going to be different. It's going to be a totally different energy to last week, where we were called to move, to jump into the energy of change and to use our power. This week, we start off with the first hexagram of hexagram 60, limitation. Okay, so before we get worried about, oh, I don't want to be limited, I don't want to be held back, let's have a look at the shape of this hexagram. So, you know that a hexagram is made up of two trigrams, 2 3-lined images, a bottom one, okay, or a lower, and a top one, or an upper. And they combine together to form the 6-lined hexagram that we use in the I Ching to understand what is happening. And our bottom trigram, so you can see this one over here, is lake. Okay, right? And the top one is water. So now you can visualize. We have a lake. So see in your mind, close your eyes, see in your mind this lake that already has water in it. And there's a waterfall, okay, pouring water into this lake at a rapid rate. What happens to the lake? Well, it's obvious. It overflows. Okay, we don't want lakes overflowing because as the water surges down the valley, okay, it's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be going through the rivers, channeled through the right natural flows of the mountain or the lake bed. We want it to be controlled because water can be quite dangerous if we have literally this volumes of water pouring down over the side of the lake. So this week, what we have to do, what we're being asked to pay attention to, is to recognize that somewhere in our life there is too much flow. Okay, too much going on, too many commitments, too many projects all materializing at once, too much stuff. Okay, so this is this water flowing into lake. And the way we handle it is we put in place some good structure, some good limitation to control the water. Okay, controlling how much we do, and we are using that as a way of controlling the situation, which could become very overwhelming. If you're feeling overwhelmed, this hexagram has come to help you. And what I find is that if we just reach out with our mind or our consciousness, whatever you want to put to it, and we reach out to the hexagram and you say, help me, please help me, inspire me to put in place this energy to support me. Because what this hexagram is coming to say is that there's this over too much. And the way we get through this week, and the way we maximize the week, is we are recognizing that and we are putting in place controls. So for example, with this hexagram, if you take a book, you divide a book up into chapters, into sections, into paragraphs, into sentences, into words. What that does is it takes the whole idea, okay, that can be overwhelming, and it puts it into intervals, into pieces, into things that are connected together and categorized together, right? And I also think of this hexagram of literally a dam, okay, a controlled dam. So think about a dam that's in your area where there's a controlled big wall, okay? Think of that James Bond dam. There's a controlled wall where there are systems and controls in place to measure and manage how much water is allowed out through the sluice gates, when it's allowed, how it's controlled, how that water is fed back into the river below it. And so it's worked in a manageable way. Okay, that's what we want to do this week. We want to recognize that there's this huge power behind the dam wall, and our task is to manage and control it, putting in place restrictions, limitations, boundaries. Okay, so it might not be about a to-do list. It might be about actually managing the boundaries with another person, in a relationship or in a workplace situation. Putting in place the control mechanisms like you are the dam manager, and allowing that to control the flow. Take charge of the flow, right? Don't say yes to everything. Okay, this energy is about being very clear that things could go really wild very quickly if we were unfettered in our saying yes to things or in doing things without consequences. All right, so this week we're going to step into our controller, our traffic controller mindset, our dam controller mindset. We're going to hold this image of this dam in mind because we have done work to build up this flow. Okay, something is happening where the flow is coming, all right? And we have done work to build the flow. Now what we have to do this week is we have to just control it, okay? Tweak it, put in place things, measure, all right? Put in place measurements around budgets, actuals, timelines, tick lists, project plans. Those are all control mechanisms to make sure that we get to the end destination and we deliver the value that we intended. We make the most of the situation. I'm thinking in my mind as I come into this week that I'm participating in an exhibition for business, and I'm aware of how much work that's going to require. And so in this coming week, that's all that needs to be important. I need to put in place control mechanisms to make sure that that's delivered well, my tick list, my project management process, but I also have to be careful of not adding other responsibilities onto the plate this week because the dam will overflow. Right, so that's how we work with this week. Now, there are two changing lines in the first and the sixth position. And you remember me saying when we had the week of the one creative, the dragon, that 1 and 6 lines, okay, 1 is a line that's entering because we go from the bottom to the top. So it's something that's arriving, it's emerging in, okay, and line 6 is something that's exiting, that's culminating and moving out, all right, in, out, okay. So these two lines are unstable in that they are transitory, okay, so they're not strong, stable lines when we think about changing lines. Okay, so let's have a look at what these lines are asking us to pay attention to. This one coming in the bottom, line 1, says, whoa, okay, stop. This is not the time to act. This is not the time to leave the inner sanctum, the core of your life, your house, your home, your core of what you're doing. Okay, so what this is saying to us is that as this new energy comes in, okay, and the lake is starting to fill up with all the water, this is not the time to act. So there's something as we start the week off where we are really being called to not add new into the week. Okay, stay in your home. Okay, that might literally be stay in your physical home, but it's about really the symbolism of staying in your core self, staying in your center, staying in where you belong, your quiet, safe space. Right? Just be cautious for the first few days of not pushing out as we start off the week. And then in our sixth position, our line in the exiting culminating point is that there's a warning here. It's quite interesting that obviously as we're working with this hexagram, we're putting in place measures to try and control the situation. So this line says, bitter and harsh words and measures will not help. Okay, they will harm. So sometimes when we don't deal with stuff, okay, and we don't put in place controls, boundaries, and processes to control things, we leave them. We don't want the conflict. We don't want to get into it. We put it down. We procrastinate over it, and we leave it. Okay, and what happens is the issue gets more and more and more and more intense and more extreme. It doesn't go away. And so at a point, we suddenly have to put in place a control. And what we tend to do is, because we have left it, we put in place a harsh control, because now we're trying to catch up for all the time that we didn't have a control in place. And so we overdo it and we put in place harsh controls, and we are hard with our words. So this changing line cautions us against bitter words, bitter speech, bitterness in dealing with putting in place measures. So the bitterness might manifest for you as an internal dialogue. And you've met someone, I'm sure, or you've seen someone whose life is filled with bitterness, and you can see their mouth. Their mouth develops this kind of like pinched tightness of bitterness that's sitting here and waiting to be spoken. We don't want to manifest that in our lives, do we? So this week, our attention is being drawn to an issue where perhaps we feel harsh measures are required, or we have to be harsh in speech, or we have to lay down the law, or we have to tell it like it is, and it just comes out as really bitter and really harsh. What we are needing to do is be the master in the situation and not work with this situation this way. It's not try and solve the problem that has accumulated by now being harsh and being very, very hardcore, okay? This week, that line is saying this is not going to get us what we want, okay? We have to do it differently. And maybe the learning for us is that if we put in place controls and measures to guide and manage this flow of water, our dams, our life as a dam, if we put those controls in place early and we maintain them, there isn't the need for all this drama when things go to boiling point, okay? The dam manager gets fired if he or she does not manage and control it in a systematic, ongoing way, endurance. What we do is we put those things in place and we manage them. We maintain the controls and order and structure of our lives and our businesses so that the flow comes through nice and consistently. Instead of getting into drama and the dam is about to burst its banks, and then we put in place harsh measures, and then things calm down, and then, too much drama. Okay, so those are our two changing lines for the week. And because of those positions, we have our second relating hexagram. It's a second chapter of change. It's a second layer of the story of the week that we're being asked to pay attention to. And it's 59 dispersing. So we went from 60, clocked one hexagram back to 59 dispersing. This is wind over water. And that tells a story of this warming wind blowing over the frozen plains, dispersing the smog across the city, melting the frozen ice, clearing out, gently clearing out and releasing the things that were obstacles. This hexagram is all about things that are locked and frozen and stuck, obstacles that have become frozen up, slowly thawing out and emerging and releasing. Okay, so it's a slow release energy as opposed to 51 shock we had last week, which is and the air is suddenly clear. This is a slow release of energy process. So there's a healing opportunity this week to unravel some of the stuckness. Wherever you feel stuck, maybe this is a lesson to look back at limitation and say, where are we stuck and where is the lack of limitation, the lack of controls and dam management? The real issue behind this frozen, locked up situation. But the I Ching heralds for us that we have the opportunity to lean into the gentle thaw, to lean into the clearing of the smog, and to let go of something that perhaps for a long time has been sitting with us, deeply frozen up in the ice. Thank you so much. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, hit that little bell icon if you're on YouTube so that the app delivers the episode straight to you when it's done. And thank you to the podcast listeners. Thank you. I really appreciate your participation. And of course, I'll see you on the socials, and I will see you very soon.